So, welcome to Tuesday at 10. And we'll start out by giving you the normal updates that come along. And first of all, I don't have any updates. There's been no big changes going on with NAR, IR, or MIBOR. But there are a couple things that I do want to discuss that are going on. First of all, I read and you may have read this article too. I don't know. I get Realtor magazine emails from Realtor magazine, and sometimes they go in and read the articles. But at any rate, they had an article about this crypto scam that's going around, and um, so far, according to the article, 60 agents nationwide 60 agents nationwide have been scammed by these crypto scammers, and to the tune of $15 million has been scammed from these 60 agents. And these are people that have admitted that it happened. Uh, so that's probably just the tip of the iceberg. Uh, but it highlights the fact that we need to be really diligent. Just heard about a new scam this morning from a newsletter that I get. And the new scam is that somebody contacts you and wants you to speak on their podcast. And so, it sounds like a good opportunity to get exposure for you or your business. And so you agree to do it. And so then in the process, they tell you, okay, we're gonna have a trial run of the podcast. So they get you online, they do a trial run, and then they want to send you a link on Facebook or something to help you access this, and you don't get the link. And so then their tech guy wants to take look at your screen to help you through this. And so they walk you through this, allegedly getting you all set up. And really what they're trying to do apparently is get a hold of your social media accounts. Now, why they want to hijack your social media accounts, I don't know. But I've received a couple of emails of that nature of wanting me to be on a podcast, and I've just you know rejected them. But uh, people are all the time trying to scam, so it means what it means to us as real estate agents. First of all, we're out there on the internet. We have to be. We can't be private or secret agents. We have to be out there, and so we're a big target for scammers because of that. Because it's easy to reach out to us, it's easy to contact us, and realtors by and large are want business. And so when somebody reaches out to them, either as a client that wants to buy a $1 million home, our ears, open up and we pay attention to $1 million buyer, and we hate to decline somebody that might buy a $1 million home from us, while at the same time they're busy scamming us and trying to take money from us. So, um, and the same thing with these interview podcast things. We always want exposure for our business, and we believe that, good exposure is good for us. I think the big key is that if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is too good to be true. So in other words, it's not true. So don't get taken in by these scams. Keep yourself safe. Use that new tool that we have with MyBoard to check the number of the persons that's contacting you. You know, if there's no information on the number, it means it's a brand new number. And chances are it's somebody that just got that number to start scamming people. And so, or if you check the number and it's a different person than you're expecting it to be, again, chances are that's a scam. Um, and so we just need to recognize that. And now I think the scammers are starting even to come through um, realtor.com leads where
where
they
they
find an agent. So just beware and be careful because there's lots of ways to get yourself in trouble out there on the internet. And even just minding your own business, trying to do your real estate practice, there's a lot of ways that you just get into trouble there. Um, so one of the things that I wanted to talk about here, and let me pull it up here. We've got coming our with MyBore, so nothing with IAR that I want to talk about, but MyBore has some new requirements under Indiana state law that affects brokers, managing brokers. But this is something that you need to know about too. Um, so first of all, trust accounts, brokerages are required to maintain trust accounts to manage earnest money and other client funds. And I actually did see this is also involved with IAR because I actually did see a legal brief on this. And um, uh, in order to best represent your client, you should use a trust account and not the title company to hold earnest money. The reason for that is that a trust account held by a broker has a way to get the money out of there if the parties decide to sue each other, or if the parties, I'm sorry, if the parties won't agree to a mutual release, they don't do anything to sue each other, then the broker can decide where that earnest money goes and issue a letter telling everybody where it's going to go and then pay that money out. Whereas if it's in a title company account, it just sits there. There's no way to get it out of there because there's no mechanism for a title company to get it out of there. So you don't want title companies by and large holding earnest money. This also means that those brokerages that said, oh, well, we don't have a trust account, they now have to have one. They can't just ignore the law and not have a trust account. Um, Now, what exceptions might there be? Well, one exception might be is if the earnest money, if the commissions aren't going to cover the amount of the earnest money, it might be helpful to have the title company hold that earnest money because then I don't have to cut a separate check to the title company to pay at closing. That's that's just one possible reason to have the title company hold it. But again, doesn't have to be that way. I can, in order to best take care of your prospect or your buyer or seller, it's best that I hold the earnest money uh, in the trust account, or that the other agent. So typically, in most of our transactions, we ask the seller's agent to hold earnest money. But our new purchase agreement allows the buyer's agent to hold earnest money just as well as the seller's agent, or they can specify a third party. And third parties are not restricted from holding earnest money. So title companies can hold earnest money, But it does require real estate brokerages to have a trust account as well, and they're probably the best one to hold earnest money. Um, also, there's new sellers disclosures. Sellers must disclose if a property is located in a locally designated historic district or a conservation easement. And that can be real important. Let's say there's parts of Indianapolis, for instance, that are designated as historic districts. In those districts, it severely limits the homeowners of what they can do to the outside of their home, even to the extent of changing windows and things of that sort. And so that now has to be disclosed to a potential buyer. Same thing if there's a conservation easement, because that can affect their use of the land or their use of the
Question.
property.
How do we know if a property is located in that area?
Well, if you're listing a property, you need to ask the seller. Now, it's probably not going to be. So the areas to watch are going to be like Meridian, Kessler, any property on Meridian Street in Indianapolis. Um, Historic districts like Fountain Square, um, you kind of Woodruff Place. You kind of know when you're in an area where there's a lot of historic homes or buildings, then you probably want to ask the homeowner that's listing that property, hey, is this in any kind of historic district?
Any
Uh,
any home that's really old,
yeah.
construction, then you would start asking. Like if it's built in 1900, start asking.
Hmm. Yeah. Same thing in Noblesville. I mean, downtown Noblesville, there could be historic districts down there that limit what you can do to a home. So you want to find that out, and that's going to be on the new seller's disclosure. So that question will be on the seller's disclosure now. So you don't have to necessarily remember it. You're going to have that in as part of the seller's disclosure. At least that's my understanding. Um, Also, there now are increased manage and broker requirements. So for someone to become a managing broker, they have to have now been a licensed broker for 3 years, active licensed broker. I don't know what they mean by active, if that's a certain number of transactions or whatever, that hasn't been clarified. But 3 years, and they have to pass a written test. I think before it was like 1 year, and pass the test um, to become a managing broker. And the final one is the Indiana Real Estate Commission and the Indiana Professional Licensing Agency will conduct annual audits of continuing education, and they're required to audit somewhere around 10% randomly of people. So it's important. It's always been important. It's still important, and it will be important in the future that you do your annual CE on time and make sure that if the company that you take your CE from doesn't automatically upload the information for you, then it's up to you to upload it. Now, if you use J Rose, which is who I use, they upload to um uh, to the commission, I guess, and to the licensing agency. They upload your proof of um, of compliance with that. So I don't know if how many of the others might do that as well, but you want to check and find out if they just give you a certificate, then it's up to you probably to upload that certificate yourself. So check with your CE provider concerning that. Um, So, in terms of updates with Realty World, tomorrow there's a class with Gabrielle Jeans, and it's at 1 o'clock Eastern time. And best practices when showing homes. I think this could be a really good um, uh, class. So you might want to talk about. You might want to attend this. So it's easy to register. You just go to the Rallium dashboard and register for it. You probably also received an email uh, advising you that this class is coming, and so you can register from the email, and then at the time of the presentation, you can log on. I attend every single one of these that I possibly can. I mean, there's times when I have closings or showings or something that's going to make money that I have to skip these. But I hate to skip them because I know that even though they're recorded and I could go back and watch them online, I know that I won't. I get busy, and so it by setting an appointment to go and to be there and watch this, um, then uh, then it gets done more often than not. The other thing is that I think it's an encouragement to Gabrielle Jeans as a trainer and to Realty World as a company to see agents logging in and taking advantage of the training that they're offering. They're paying, significant money to Gabrielle Jeans to do this training for us and to make it specific to Realty World um, agents. Gabrielle does training on her own. She has her own training company. And so she does training for other real estate organizations as well, not just Realty World, but the training that she does for Realty World is specific to us. It's what she has worked out um, with Realty World as far as the topics are concerned, and they're made specific to us and the products and things that we use. So really highly encourage you to take the time to attend those classes when they're available. I think it's worthwhile for you to do that. So now we're to the questions stage. What questions do you have that you would like for me to try to answer for you? These can be on any topic that you have. Not hearing any questions, and not hearing any questions, I'll probably go on to my topic of discussion today. And today we're talking about increasing luxury home sales. And so why would you want to sell a luxury property? Um, well, let me ask you this question. How many of you would rather sell $1 million property or two $500,000 properties? Most of you, I can't see all your hands because a lot of you have your screens blanked out. But I would wager to say that most of you would say, well, yeah, I'd rather do one transaction versus two.
But
That's good.
are the 500,000s buying as well though?
Well, is the $1 million buyer buying as well?
Good point.
So again, if both of the $500,000 buy, then you've got four transactions that you're doing, probably for the same amount of money that you might be doing for $2 million transactions. So luxury real estate makes a lot of sense, but it's a little bit more difficult business to get into and to flourish in. And so I attended a class that was put on, and interestingly, it dovetailed with a Tom Ferry class that I took but this particular one was done by Derek Carlson of Realty One Group down in Florida. And you know I'm a Derek Carlson fan. I'm also a Tom Ferry fan. So um, I'm a fan of anybody that has good training that I think is worthwhile. And so I try to attend these people's trainings when I can. Um, so he so here are just some ideas or suggestions uh, to help you break into the luxury real estate market if you're not currently in that market, or if you are currently selling luxury real estate, how to expand your luxury real estate production. Um, One thing that Derek Carson always says is that knowledge is means nothing. So if you know how to do it, that doesn't mean a thing. It requires implementation. And Derek Carlson is always saying you have to take massive action, massive action, which means you just can't sit back and do a little or dabble in it. If you're serious about selling luxury real estate, then you need to take massive action to get into that market. You can't just dabble in it and hope that by dabbling, you're going to become a luxury real estate broker. That's really not going to happen. You need to take massive action. And it starts with a mindset. Um, you have to have the mindset that this is not a hobby, it's a business. Again, dabbling is a hobby. Working at it, acknowledging that it's not a hobby, it's a business, is a mindset to get into. And the mindset also is that, hey, it's better to sell $1 million property than two $500,000 properties, or three properties that add up to $1 million. It's less work generally. Um, so um, so one of the things that you have to do, though, okay, if you're going to get into this market, luxury real estate, you have to establish market expertise that others value. So when you sell $1 million home, other people with $1 million homes are more interested in what you have to say because you obviously have expertise in that area. And so when you sell $1 million properties, people are more likely to trust you with their $1 million property down the street because they see you were successful selling one. So yeah, it's important to build that expertise that others are going to value. In other words, there has to be a good reason to use you versus other luxury real estate agents. Now, one thing that you can do to build expertise is to target areas. So, for those of you that live on the water or want to be waterfront uh, realtors, I mean, waterfront property in Indiana is usually $1 million plus property. There are a few that are under $1 million. If you look at Geist, you'll not find anything on actual water, decent water, for less than $1 million, unless it's a condo way back in the end of an inlet. But you're not going to find homes on the water at Geist for under $1 million. Rare, rare. So, um, but so you know the neighborhoods to target, and those are the neighborhoods that have waterfront properties. And one way that you can show your expertise is to do what's called market mapping. And that's where you do a search in the BLC and you look for active, pending, sold, and expireds and you map them. And you can see then visually what's going on in the neighborhood. And it can also give you an indication of maybe some people that you might want to reach out to in that neighborhood. Now, it used to be when we had Remine, you could go in and you could actually get a cell score for a property that way. I don't think you can get that anymore, but mapping it out on a map is a good way to establish your expertise. And so for instance, you might mark yellows as pending, reds are active, greens are sold, and blacks are expired, or some way of color coding them. But then when you get a chance to list in a neighborhood like that, you know what's going on in that neighborhood. You can speak to the situation in that neighborhood. So market mapping is a good way to go. Another thing is be unique. Uh, don't be cookie cutter. If you're saying the same thing and doing the same thing as every other agent out there, that's not appealing to a luxury seller or a luxury buyer because they don't see themselves as cookie cutter. And they're definitely not interested in buying a cookie cutter home, right? They want something unique, something that is different. So, how do you make yourself less cookie cutter? Well, one thing you could do is you could go in to ChatGPT and ask GPT what you can do to make yourself not cookie cutter. So you give ChatGPT a description. I'm a residential real estate broker in Fishers, Indiana, or Noblesville, Indiana, or Indianapolis, Indiana. It doesn't matter where. You could describe the area that you want to work in. Um, and I'm interested in getting into the luxury real estate market in my community. What are some suggestions that I can to make myself less cookie cutter so that I can be different than other agents in that particular area? What could I do to make myself stand out? And ChatGPT probably will come up with some good answers or good suggestions for you. The more descriptive you are. So one of the things you can do is describe yourself, and here's how old I am, here's what I like to do, here's the organizations I'm part of. How do I leverage that to become a luxury real estate agent? So be unique. Um, the next thing is to keep in mind that a lot of million-dollar property owners um have gatekeepers, and when I say gatekeepers, I'm meaning that to get to them, you can get to them through other people. So, for instance, some of these houses that are around Geist and probably around Morris as well are not year-round residences. They're owned by somebody out of state, and they come in and occupy the place when they're in for their kids, their grandkids, and then they go back to where they're from. I know for instance, that there are numerous homes on Geist Reservoir that are not occupied year round. They're owned by people that live in Chicago, but this is cheap waterfront property for them to buy. And a lot of times their kids have moved to Indianapolis because Indianapolis is safer. The schools are a better place to raise your family. And so they want to come down and spend time with their grandkids. And so they buy $1 million home instead of buying a big boat up on Lake Michigan. They buy $1 million home on Geist, and then they come down and entertain their grandkids with boating on the lake and swimming pool in the backyard, and stuff like that. So those people typically have house managers that run their house when they're not there, and may even live in the house when they're not there as a caretaker. So that could be somebody. Most of these people have attorneys and CPAs, and so a lot of times a way to get to them is to build relationships with attorneys and CPAs. So as you're out there networking and you have attorney friends or you have CPA friends, get to know them and network with them, because a lot of times the networking with them is a way to $1 million properties. Um, some of the $1 million properties that I've been able to sell have come because of networking. Either somebody that I met somewhere networking, or somebody that I knew networking knew somebody else that was buying or selling a $1 million property. And so that's a way for you to network and get a $1 million property. Um, it's important to have processes and systems. So make sure you have processes and systems that are going to work for you. If you've never done a $1 million property, because one of the first things that $1 million sellers are going to ask you, have you ever sold $1 million home? And so if you can't answer that, yes, I have, and you're going to have to say no, then you need to handle that big objection. And that big objection can be handled either by, so instead of saying, I'm representing you, it's my team and I. And so there's lots of experience here in this company of people selling $1 million sales. So uh, uh, we're here to help you, and so you can use the team approach. My team and I are going to be listing your home, and you can let people know, that that maybe you haven't sold that many $1 million listings, but you're going to outwork everybody else to try to sell the $1 million listing that you do get. And that's where those processes and systems can really be helpful to you. That's where a solid listing presentation, boy, you really want a solid listing presentation in that kind of a situation, uh, and solid systems that go along with it. So things like your uh, your core listing machine, that you can, the marketing that's put together for you for that can be a big key to getting these listings. So, if you haven't sold $1 million property, fine, take it head on. Don't run, don't hide. Uh, Admit it and just say, hey, but I've got a team here to back me up. Um, and I'm looking to make my mark. And so, every move I make, every breath I take is going to be in line with trying to sell your home. And you can be sure that I'm going to focus on that versus maybe one of these other agents that sold a whole bunch of $1 million properties, but you know, they're not going to give you the personalized service that you might want or expect. So use a killer listing presentation, focus on process, and then leverage your first listing. $1 million homes are great places to hold exclusive broker opens, kind of by invitation only type thing. Um, and make sure you feature it in media and in ads. That can also get your name out there as well. Um, and so that's a good way to do that. And then the final thing you want to think about is building your branding or your image. So you want to leverage your sphere of influence and any luxury designations that you can pick up. Uh, those are good to have. Those are things that are going to help your image. Become a neighborhood expert. Again, that's one of the reasons why to map a neighborhood, know everything that's going on in a specific neighborhood. So become that expert. Uh, so build your branding. So use different branding. Realty World has different branding for luxury properties. It's called Platinum Properties. And so whenever I list a property that's even 500,000 or more, I use the Platinum Properties luxury branding for that property. So it's not the same branding as I have for just Realty World. Um, and a lot of you have your own signs and your own branding. I would encourage you to have a luxury brand that you utilize for those bigger uh, uh, priced properties, so that it's a different look and feel when you're marketing that property versus something less expensive, first time home buyer home. Uh, you can network with luxury buyers. This is probably the best ways to find them. Chamber of Commerce is one place where you can network. So if you're not a member of the One Zone Chamber of Commerce, I highly encourage you to do that and then get involved in networking in that. There's Rotary. I've gotten business from Fisher's Rotary that's been in that price range. There's Kiwanis. If you don't like Rotary, there's Kiwanis clubs. There are golf and yacht clubs. Okay, so if you like playing golf, join a golf club. If you like playing or sailing boats, then you can join the sailing club. If you like to just boating in general, you can join the Indianapolis Yacht Club. In other words, there's organizations out there that you could join that you can network with these luxury buyers, people that live on the lake, and they then might think about you to help market their listing when it comes time. Um, and then the final thing I guess I want to say here, this is from Tom Ferry. One of the things you want to do is you want to make sure you have structured content that fits your niche. So if your niche is waterfront properties on Geist, let's say, then you want to have structured content that fits that niche. Um, and so one of the things that you can do is use AI to come up with that structured content. So you could ask Chat GPT to put together a top 10 list of things that luxury buyers should know before they buy a home, or 5 reasons to not buy a luxury property, or 5 reasons to buy a luxury property. So use those kinds of content that fit your niche. Or waterfront. So you could focus on maybe 5 reasons to buy a waterfront property, or 5 reasons to not buy a waterfront property. 5 reasons to buy a golf course property. 5 reasons to not buy a golf course property. And those things can catch people's attention out there on the internet, and particularly on YouTube, because YouTube's one of those marketing search engine type channels where you can really get a lot of leverage if you're consistent on YouTube. So bottom line is you want to be a knowledgeable broker in that space, and that you can get more business that way. So that's all I have for you today. We're out of time anyhow. Any questions on what we covered? Nope. Okay, great. I wish you guys to have an excellent day today, and we'll see you later.
Thanks, Jim.
Thanks.